Well, folks, welcome to another edition of Barstools and Bandtalk Rimshots with Sean, brought to you by Coors Light. I'm not a corporate sellout. We have all the way from, and I don't know how it's working out that my last four guests have been from Los Angeles. That's maybe telling me something. I don't know. Maybe I need to move there, but we have Mr. Tony Lepre, Attack of the Horizon. Tony, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, great to be here, man. Thanks.
First thing I want to say, so your boy Dave Tedder sent me what I think is one of the most impressive electronic press kits I've ever seen.
Oh, wow.
It's, the tunes are there, the information's there. I kind of feel like I know everything about you guys, yet I don't. So for the sake of our viewers, you guys put your first single out on the 22nd of April. So let's just maybe cover that first, and we'll go into a little bit of band history.
Sure. The first single from the album was On the Horizon. Yeah.
So I have new single Burning Daylight from Attack of the Horizon. Was that April 22nd it came out?
Yeah, that's the latest one. I thought you said the first one. I'm sorry.
No,
the latest. Fine. Yeah, the latest singles. Yeah, Burning Daylight. Yeah.
So if I may, I'm sitting there and I'm listening to the tunes and I'm going, okay, I'm hearing things because I'm one of those guys. I'm very big on, why put something on your own together when there's so many good chops you can steal and make them your own. The first thing here,
but that's what everybody does.
Right. And hey, man, you don't, right?
I mean, that's just how it is.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Your singer, to me, what a voice. Very unique. My first thought was King Diamond.
Yeah, he gets that. He's in that realm.
Great range, great control. For what you guys are doing, not really. You don't hear kind of that Man-O-War, type of growl with the high range. In your bio, you said that he was one of the guys that you really kind of targeted to get in the band to get things rolling.
Yeah, there was a point in time there where the previous lineup had come to pass, and we knew Mandrake, Chris and I, my brother who plays the drums, and I'm like, I'm going to go hit him up because he knows us and we know him. And he, 20 minutes into the conversation, he says, I'm in the band. So I'm like, great, because that guy is, his range, like you said, we've scratched the surface, with him. So it's pretty amazing.
And it's funny because, there's so many bands now where they're either bringing their old guys back in terms of singers or they're finding new ones. And it really seems like, I'll use a band like Skid Row, for example, that has this kid that, fingers crossed, the voice stands up for him. He's a throwback. He sounds great. And he's, less than 30 years old. The question I've always wanted to ask people that I guess are in your neck of the woods, that part of the world really seems to find players, but in particular singers, that where I am in Halifax, Nova Scotia, they don't exist. Why is that?
I think it's because they go there or they come here in a sense, Yeah. Mandrake came here from Brazil. He did his thing down there and he said, I'm going to America, and he ended up here in the LA area because that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to sing, just like half the iconic bands that have came out of here. Many of their members came from somewhere else to come here to do something,
It's really, it's a melting pot. So before we go on, more about the new project, I was reading your press kit, and I don't want to mess anything up, but you guys have been around for a while, and you had another project that you termed it as more traditional rock, yourself and your brother. Talk about that, because I guess you guys kind of went back to that a little bit, but now you're focusing on this again.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure which, because we've been playing in different bands for a long time, everything from outlaw country to blues to the rock and metal stuff. So, but though when Attack was doing its thing, the first two incarnations, which at one point I was singing, which I have a very limited range. And then we took a break to go do this other thing with what's called Malakiti with a friend of ours who's an actor, vocalist from the 80s. It was in Medusa and a few other bands. And that was fine. It was fine to do that. You go with the flow of things.
So, I have your biography pulled out here, and I apologize if I look like that I'm not paying attention to you, but I'm just trying to. It was a lot of information to take in,
Yeah, we were trying to make it concise, not too much of a book, more of a just here's the stuff, the good stuff.
Well, and I get it. And, Malakite Theory was the first one that was referenced. And, it says that you were playing with Warrior DC4 Odin. I'm assuming that's the Odin that was in Decline of the Western Civilization that was going to be the biggest band in the world that nobody ever heard from again.
Well, it is them, yes. And the members were friends of mine and my brother. We hung out with those guys we hung out with people in Armored Saint and every other band that was around from this time, or those times. So that is that band, yes.
And I mean, great band. That movie, it's funny. I watched that again, maybe 2 months ago. I was in one of those things where I watched that and then the biography on Chris Holmes from Wasp. And it's kind of funny how, life doesn't treat everybody the same way.
True.
Talk about the scene out there. I mean, you say you've been around for a while and what have you. What's the scene like out there right now?
As far as the local, music scene, there is one. There's always, still is, different genres, different styles. There's different areas where those are flourishing. Some are kind of doing whatever. I mean, as far as the metal scene goes, it's nothing like it used to be.
Right.
The good news is there's not that old competition freak show, which was kind of weird, but whatever. And there is a sense of community here still, which is great because, that's where I gravitate towards. I don't pay attention to those who are want to do their own little, whatever that is. If you're into the community of what we're all doing here, that's great, which is true across the country and across the planet. I mean, the metal community, comes together from wherever it is, but,
Yeah, it does. And one of the things that I found and had the opportunity to interview a band from up in the San Francisco area a couple of weeks ago. And he still says there's that vibe of when Metallica was out there and they were doing the tape swapping thing at shows where all the bands are, hey, you need a guitar, you need an amp, it's very all for one and one for all to make the scene move forward as opposed to slitting each other's throats.
Yeah, I don't see much slitting throats. It could be existing. If it is, I don't participate. I don't associate with any people like that at all in my life. So I don't see it. I mean, it could be there. I don't know. I do know that we've all, especially since we now can go play again and get out there and do stuff, there's a lot of camaraderie and everybody's, working with each other or whoever works together good to make stuff happen.
Well, and I was going to mention that because obviously, you mentioned Armored Saint, and it says in your bio, Diamond Head Metal Church that you've shared a stage with. What was life like for you guys before all this nonsense happened? I guess in 2020, were you at it pretty hard and out there?
Yeah, yeah, we had just finished tracking the album from June through the end of November. Bill Matoyer had just started mixing in December, and we did this, NAMM show. It's okay, NAMM's the kickoff. We're going to put out these, special promo mixes and a video thing and, go out there and do it, go play gigs, release the album, go play a bunch of gigs, get out there on the road, tour, whatever. And then everything just kind of slammed shut. And understandably so. I mean, there's life and death going on. So, right. But it was quite an interesting experience for everybody. I know no matter what field of life they're in or what their station of life was, everybody was we're all used to doing something, moving forward, going to the movies, whatever you want to call it. And all of a sudden everything just stopped.
Yeah. And, the thing about that it's just kind of the way it is when you get a lot of people together. But the one thing that really seemed to get everybody through that whole pandemic was music. And it seemed to be the thing that was probably hit the hardest and treated the worst and the slowest to come back. And what are your thoughts on that? Because people have different sort of varying kind of thoughts on that, how that all shook down.
I mean, as far as what can you be a little more specific? Are you talking to me about the social aspects of a pandemic or music in general and how it treats people through times of shit going on?
Well,
I'm just asking so I know what you want me to answer.
Yeah, sure. So up here in Canada, I'm a musician. My friends are musicians. We suddenly have no income. the government puts this thing in play where all you got to do is phone this number and they'll give you X amount of dollars a month. A lot of them are getting slammed on income tax now because there's no tax taken away from it. But they couldn't play, so I guess it was a thing. But while the pandemic was happening, it was people were live streaming and people were going back to music and websites. My website podcast came up from that. Yet it just seemed like up here anyway, government didn't treat music nicely. It was kind of like, you're the poor, redheaded stepchild, stay in the corner and we'll get to you. Was it like that in the States in terms of the comeback? And
I know that everybody was doing live streaming, which was great because they were still able to have some sense of that working, where you have some interaction with others, which is part of the thing of why you play music is, for yourself, obviously, but, to enjoy that human experience. As far as the government goes, the government we had at the time, I don't know what they were doing for anybody, right. Other than themselves and a few other of those types. So, I'm trying to keep it simple with that.
Oh, listen, you know what? I don't. We're not a political show by any stretch.
Right. No, I'm just saying,
and that could be definitely a conversation you and I have off the air. But I guess where I was trying to go with it was the one thing that seemed to get people through the pandemic, which was music, was the thing that was treated the worst in terms of, musicians were probably in the arts were some of the last folks to be able to go back and do what they do to make money.
Well, that's very true. I mean, no doubt. I'm not so much a professional working musician in the context that my bills are paid from playing. Yes, I'm a pro in the context I do make money, but those are my friends who are, that's their gig, like a painter or a plumber or anything else. Right. They had to figure out what to do. And thankfully the government, in the capacity of, we pay taxes for this. So give us some money somewhere. Yeah. They were able to get their, some funding, some kind of income from those resources. But it was kind of like for everybody, because there's like a ton of people who were in the art community of some type who really, what do I do? Go drive an Uber now? Because even that's not happening because you can't go anywhere. There's nowhere to go. You're going to go to the store, So, it was pretty funky for sure.
And one of the things that, we saw up here was that all of a sudden, and it was great. People were taking up music for the first time. But then, somebody was going, geez, you're good. You should start a band. And the next thing you know, they're playing. And some of them were playing for, no money when the gigging guys are actually, trying to sing for their supper. I don't know if you saw that down there, but that was a little bit of a frustrating thing up here.
There might have been some of that. I do know that if anything, there was, more of a flourish of the homegrown in the sense that if you have a camera and a capability to do a webcast or put something on the internet, whether it's on YouTube or whatever, you can do that. And people were doing that from every level possible.
Right on. So just before we wrap up segment one, this is something that it's going to sound a little bit silly, so we'll qualify it. But where I come from, our climate is very close to what you would get in New York. So super hot summers, sort of cold winters. But we never have the excuse of super hot weather almost all year round where you can go to the beach and have fun. So we spend a lot of time practicing because there's nothing else to do, right? I was one who spends a lot of time out that way. And I've always wondered this because there's so much talent that comes out of there. How do you guys actually get the motivation and not go outside all the time? And
well, I can only speak for myself per se in that sense. In that, I live about 5 blocks from the beach. I go outside all the time. I go to the beach when I do. I go places now that we can and all that. But I have always played since I was, 13, 14 years old. I wanted to play. I wanted to learn the songs. When you're starting out, you want to know everything you can about everything. And these days, I just keep still have the desire to keep up some kind of maintenance. Learn, continue to learn, continue to what is that riff? Or, I started doing a bunch of relearning songs that I knew, God knows, decades ago, just because I haven't really learned covers in a long time. It's just not been what's going on. And I'm just doing it again because I want to. I want to go do this again just to kind of see what happens now, because I've always learned that when you play, you get better at what you're doing, whatever that is. It's like anything else. If you work out in some capacity, you consistently do it. Yeah, it's a beautiful day outside, but I got to go hit the gym or whatever, right, just for your own personal health or whatever the case may be, So,
well, my motivation was always, I didn't practice to get better because of the guy 5 blocks away from my house. I tried to get better because of the Tony and Chris Lepre that I didn't even know about were out in California, and I want to be able to keep up with them, right?
Sure. I mean, that's very true. I mean, because we all grew up with, a crew of musicians growing up in school. I mean, how many people did you play when you were in high school, right? A bunch, and we jammed together. And of course, back then everybody had egos, but you grow out of that and then you get into that other aspect. And then it's just, I want to be, as good as I can be myself. I haven't been the guitar slinger guy for shit. I don't even know, a long, long, long time. Meaning I'm not, trying to outdraw somebody,
Well, I don't know. And I mean, you play for yourself, man, but it sounds tight. The stuff that I heard was, that's not, and I want to go into this in the second segment because
cool.
Your genre of music sometimes gets an unfair shake, and it's not an easy style to play. People don't realize how tight it is, how precise it is. Right? Yeah.
I mean, it's, that's part of it. I mean, my brother and I do love improv, and we grew up with jazz, and we do love whether it's a kind of a jazzy, bluesy, free form flow jam. Yep. And that's cool with the right musicians that you can kind of go and just plug in and go somewhere. At the same time, the discipline of being tight as fuck, you work that out with the cats you're playing with so that when you go present it to somebody, it's tight as fuck because that's what you're doing.
Absolutely. So we're going to end this segment here, Mr. Lepre. We're going to come back for a second segment. We will be on very soon. I think I'm shooting for next Friday to get this on because I want to kind of have it coincide with your releases and stuff that's coming up. So we'll see you next segment, folks.
Okay, yeah.